afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Genai Corban. I'm the moderator for tonight's Q&A, and I want to thank you for being with us during the 29th Woods Hole Virtual Film Festival. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our dinner and a movie sponsor for today's film, Shibil, which is Casa Vallarta restaurant located on 70 Davis Straits Road in Falmouth, Mass. Couple of housekeeping items. All films are eligible to receive both an audience and a jury award. You can vote for audience awards for feature films on the platform. On the home image of each film, you'll see 5 stars next to the box that says watch later, and that's where you'll vote, with number 1 being the lowest and number 5 being the highest. And then for short films, we'll send pass and ticket holders further information. During today's Q&A for Shibil, which will last about 45 minutes, I'll be speaking with the filmmaker, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. Please write your questions in the Q&A section, which is on the space bar at the bottom of your screen. And then I'll pass along the questions for response. Please mute your audio and enjoy. Thank you so much for being with us. Welcome. I am so pleased to have Nikola Bozadzhiev from Bulgaria here with us this afternoon, writer and director of Shibil. Nikola, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here among you. So I'm very pleased, and yeah, I will do my best to answer as clear as possible everything that you're interested. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, and your English is spectacular.
Thank you.
So first, I just wanted to let our audience know that Nikola is a mere 20 years old and has really put together a cinematic tour de force. Nikola, I wanted to talk a little bit about your characters and the fact that you have written very strong female characters. Mm-hmm. For some people that may not know this, your film Shibil is an adaptation of a previously written story. But could you talk a little bit about Rada and Kalina?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Were they a centrist in the short story, and why did you decide to make such strong female protagonists?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, there's a difference between, it's a tiny difference between the story by itself, because it's a short story, and Shibil and Rada, the Laflans, the main characters, protagonists of the short story by Jordan Yovkov, which is a very traditional and famous Bulgarian author with a great impact here in my country. So Rada is based to the story, but as you referred to Kalina, when we made and create the adaptation as we based on the short story and then transferred to the script of making a whole feature movie about a short story, we had to invent supporting characters that somehow will show even more wide spectrum of feelings and possible solutions of the same story. So that's why we try to combine different feelings and sensitivity in psychological way of the wide spectrum of the audience.
So it's interesting that you mentioned supporting characters. That was actually my next question. So Kalina was not then in the original short story. Is that correct?
It's
okay.
Not in the original short story. Yeah.
Okay, because I thought your writing was so terrific. She was so pivotal to the plot. And as far as supporting characters go, I thought Stefan was as well. And you
yeah, absolutely.
both of those characters beautifully, because I think Stefan, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems that because he told Veliko that Shibil's love was not fancy, he really put in motion Veliko's traitorous act with Lord Effendi. So I thought you did that very well in writing. And then had we not had Kalina find Shibil, you know, after Sava was killed, I don't know if he would have gone back to find Rada, you know, in such a passionate way.
Yeah, that's why actually the way that you're expressing your observation is profound and very correct to the main idea that we step onto it. And so Kalina somehow, because it's supporting character, and it's artificially created to the adaptation. As we mentioned, it's not in the original story. We try to mirror somehow the hidden feelings of Rada, and then be like a connection to the Shibil's world, where Rada is not allowed till the final stage, when they're embraced by their fatal ending, as
Yes.
the movie
And
goes.
I thought adding that scene where Kalina throws the rocks at the window and had Radha come down, I thought that was a really powerful scene, particularly when Radha asks her, "Why aren't you here for comfort?" You know, I thought that told us a lot about the story. Obviously, there is so much symbolism in your work, and your use of color and poetry, particularly with the horse being the narrator, was so beautiful. And the music with the violins, the cinematography. So you want to talk maybe a little bit about the drone shots that you used for the horse?
Of course. First of all, thank you again for your observation and the warm words that you sent from your country. To the drone shots, as we refer to the drone shots, in a cinematography way, with the DOP of the movie, Stefan Bozadzhiev, we initially decided to shot the movie, the base and the frame, the border connections of the movie in a static way. So we used many crane shots and stuff, but they are very, very detailed in their creation, in order not to destroy the static elements. And with the drone shots, we decided to break that intimacy with the characters and bring the giant messages, the massive scenes. That is somehow to refer that this tiny story that is somehow romantic and connected to only two characters is actually connected to the large crowds of people in any kind of religion or ethnic or society level.
Well, you did that very well, and I also wanted to compliment you on some of your establishing shots with some of the villagers, you know, which really worked out well. Before I ask you a little bit about your background in writing and film, I wanted you to talk about this particular line, God giveth and God taketh away, because most of your characters said this. And this film really was about, not just about love, but it was about vulnerability and redemption and fragility and moral conscience and principles. And I think some of these characters left life not learning much, and others did. But why did you have most of your characters say this?
Probably the subtext of this line for all the characters, and the main message was the devotion, the power of the devotion. And that is actually the way, because in seeing how the basic connections of the time period and the fictional world that was created through the adaptation are very actual to the contemporary world, where different social backgrounds meet and exchange ideas. So this line is referring exactly to the power of devotion, and speaking in every background, any age, in any background.
And it was really timeless, regardless of the fact this was 1875. So I wanted to ask you, Nikola, from the time you read the story about Shibil in high school, could you tell me about your process to writing this film and directing, and how you got your cast together and your composer?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely, it will be my honor. First of all, I really stick to the visual idea. When I start a movie based on adaptation, or it is original idea, in that case, it's adaptation, as we mentioned, I stick to particular pictures that my imagination answers through the text. And then, because I have a strong background in scenography, I use my skills to transfer visually on a paper or digital electronic devices, this visual data that I work on lately. And then with those pictures actually bring some of the basic messages that I decided to work on with the text. And as
Are you saying you storyboarded this first?
Yeah, it's how my mind probably works. I really start with the visualization first, some extraordinary things that I find visually in the text, and then I use it as a main, as I mentioned, as a core ideas that will be transferred into the text. Then, as we go to the adaptation of creating the script by itself, I start working with index cards, which is, I think that is very, usually a lot of screenwriters use this method and approach.
Yes.
And yeah, and with the index cards, I start to tell the story to every possible person, no matter the background, relatives or people that I met for first time, in order to experiment with the rhythm. And when I'm sure that the rhythm and movie by itself on the paper, on the index cards works, I then bring it to the first draft of the script. Yeah.
Well, it was incredibly realistic, and your costume work was extremely authentic. And I'm not surprised now hearing that you are learning that you're an artist, because your use of color was really incredible. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but there were different moments where Shibil in particular would have snow on his beard, and it would almost be a revelatory moment for him, you know, so, and then he would be out in the snow. And I just wanted to comment on that, and as well as the use of Kalina's horse being white and Shibil's being brown. I didn't know if
yeah, absolutely. We worked with the costume designer, Nikola. We worked very carefully on the psychology of the color and the meaning in different universal worlds. For example, in the costume of Shibil, the main costume, which is the red one, we wanted to quote the passion and the devotion to love, which is somehow the initial sensitivity and bravery of that person, which is actually a brigand, but then becomes a real humanity. So as we mentioned, the white costumes of the wedding scene, that is actually the ending of the movie. We wanted to combine both, and Shibil and Radha, that they overcome their background and their difficulties and embrace forever. So we decided to use both the costumes of Shibil and Radha, and the white as a pure, as a connection to both the earth and the sky, symbolically, as we spoke. But at the same time, when the death scene came, we wanted to draw attention to the beautiful elements of violence that actually they overcome through the blood of their pains and everything that somehow visually paints over their bodies in the scene. Yeah.
Yes, well, that was really apparent, and I think that worked out very beautifully. You don't always see all of these elements working at the same time.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the element of surprise, because often in these types of films, the audience knows how it's going to end. But I think what was really shocking is really what Radha's father did. And there was a very powerful scene where he came into her room and she said, "You've already killed me." So I just wondered, did you have a number of drafts for your screenplay? And was that a scene that was difficult for you to write?
No, as I mentioned, for me, it's very important, the first draft that I work with the index cards. In this process, I really imagined the old connections and even how the movie will work out when we're going to shooting it. So on the index stage, I found every scene that is important and something that is no sense somehow to the whole story. And for me, the first draft is somehow the literature draft, as, for example, Nikita Mikhalkov refers to, the Russian director. He actually uses the very detailed explanation of the scenes, remarking very detailed information about the cinematography, the actors, and their characters, and the sound design and music. It's like how to say? It's like a much more detailed draft of an ordinary script, but it's a method of trying to bring all the casting crew on the same page, very beginning in the process. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
Writing was extremely tight, and that's why I asked that. I did want to talk to you a little bit about some really wonderful moments, and compliment yourself and your editor. There was a scene where Kalina is with Rada, and she says, "Love requires time," and then she's funny. She says, "You know, get a new hairbrush." But there's a very quick edit to Valenko afterwards, and he said, "I'm out of time."
Yeah.
And I really thought that was just absolutely amazing. So I just wanted to talk about your editing. Was there a lot on the editing room floor? Because there were very few gratuitous moments, and I appreciated that.
Yeah. As you refer to this particular moment, detailedly speaking of the scene, this connection between the two scenes, it was actually put on very early stage on the page. It was part of the very first draft of the script. I really, as a director and scriptwriter, I searched for that moment and then that movement through the consciousnesses of Rada, Kalina, and Veliko Kihea, and trying to use the parallel editing in order to create one complex consciousness that the audience could connect to. Yeah. Right. So yeah.
And I just was curious in terms of the translation. I'm assuming that you were born in Bulgaria. And
yeah. Right.
You learned English as a schoolboy, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
How do you feel that this has translated? Because it's so beautiful in English. And how do you feel? How do your actors? I assume not all of your actors speak English.
Yeah, right. So yeah, it was a great challenge, honestly speaking, because in Bulgaria there's a lot of knowledgeable and potentially people for doing that job, but our idea of bringing like a Shakespeare language to the cinema and using a time period that is different from the England one and this Bulgarian one was something different even for the translators here in Bulgaria that already worked in history periods. So I actually connected to a very interesting English translator who is
interesting. I thought translator was English.
Yeah, it was in English. Yeah, absolutely, and it helps a lot because we analyze every single step of the script and the journey of the words. So he really found the subtext and translated it very truthfully to the initial Bulgarian adaptation. Yeah.
Interesting. Yes, it was very poetic. Yeah. So tell me about the film and how it's been received in Bulgaria for you.
Yeah, for now, there's only one actually screening for Shibil due to the COVID pandemic. Yes. And it was pre-premiere when a lot of the casting crew attended and their close relatives and just a tiny sector of a real audience that is not connected to the movie. I really found it very interesting because the people who actually were connected to the project and lived with it for like 3 years or 2.5 years were surprised by the final product in a positive way. They found something truthfully for themselves. It was just a tiny piece probably, but they found something for themselves. And I think that this is the stake of every possible movie, but in that particular project, it was the stake of the author, the Yordan Yovkov, that I actually following his mindset and trying to, because he's not alive today, and I'm trying to bring back his
I
voice
see.
back to the
Right.
audience. Yeah, right.
Right, right. That's actually incredibly challenging to do.
Mhm.
I can't believe your age, Nikola, and how incredibly talented you are.
Thank you.
I'm
So,
just 20 years old. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the dream, the
mhm,
sinister dream, where Shibil was walking barefoot and we see the
mhm,
flames. I think that was
mhm.
maybe 3 times in the film. Can you
Yeah,
talk a little bit about that?
yeah, of course. It was we tried with dream sections and studio scenes that there are some kind of pieces through the whole movie. We try to indicate the internal relationship of Shibu and his guilt
Okay.
for example, his father. This exact scene refers to his guilt to his father, who actually decided to to death for his son instead of telling to the Ottoman Empire where he can find it.
And
Yeah.
was his father, did we see him once and he said his name used to be Mustafa?
Yeah, right. This.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
that was very clear.
yeah.
I thought the dream was very powerful. I wanted to ask you in the opening, and I'm not sure I have this gentleman's name right, but you start off saying this is from the writings of
Okay.
Muhad.
Yeah,
Who,
Murad Bey. Murad Bey. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
who exactly was that?
The Murad Bey is actually the person who presents the Ottoman Empire in the movie. The man who is on the Turkish side,
Turkish
and
side, okay.
yeah, right, yeah,
Okay. Um,
and yeah. Mhm.
yes, no, I just wasn't sure. And then I have to just tell you that the ending was absolutely superb with the horse. And I felt that love was eternal. I think it was one of those films where the ending is not ambiguous at all. And this film just had so much heart and passion. Uh,
Um, I don't know what to say. I'm such a glad to hear it and thankful for those words.
well,
We really wanted to be in that way, to be as much as simple, but at the same time, in a sensitivity way, as much complex as it possible, in order to bring the difference in the universal world that we all live in. I mean, the religion difference, the ethnic differences. I mean, all the countries to combine in the same emotion. This was our stake. Yeah.
it's interesting that you mentioned the religious and ethnic differences because I did notice that when you
Yeah.
spoke about the rosary beads, that one had 99 beads,
Yeah.
typically Muslim, and then the other had 33, right?
Which is a Christian one.
Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually that particular line is actually referring that both characters truthfully are Bulgarian, but in a historical period back in our country, how the period has worked out is that a lot of people become part of the Ottoman Empire somehow, and they change their religion. So till now in Bulgaria, it's like a lot of Turkish people who are semi-Turkish, semi-Bulgarian,
Yes.
and yeah, they're following the Muslim and the Christian
Right.
line. Yeah.
Right on the border. Yeah, it was subtle, but it worked very well. And I thought the use of Stefan holding them in particular
Yeah, absolutely.
worked. I just wanted to remind our audience to submit questions. I haven't received any yet, so don't be shy. I can see them on my screen, and as soon as you have any questions, I'll present them to you.
Okay, great.
I just had sort of an actor question. Could you tell me a little bit about your directing process? We've talked a little bit about your writing. Did you have rehearsals, and how did you find your cast?
Yeah, for me, the cast is very interesting step because for many projects, and particularly that one, Shibil, I just try to find the faces by myself through the crowds of Sofia, because it's not such a giant city, but it's still a big one. And I didn't want to wait for a casting director for calling me for the right people. I really wanted to meet them, all the actors in person, and connect them before we going to the script thing. I mean, giving them the text and trying to explore some possibilities. So a lot of the young of the young cast, the young part, was actually people who I met for first time. Some of them are not really actors, others are actually actors.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I think that this was a key for the real sensitivity and the real message transferation, because some of the non-actors are very much more believable when they speak for complex things as the human heart and the humanity, because they don't want to break it and somehow just take it from life and bring it to the screen, in their perspective to the camera, but then to the screen, right? So as to the process of directing, for me the basic level and the most important stage is the pre-production, where we spent a lot of time with the actors, with cinematography, with production design. I bring all of the people on the same page in order to be ready for the shooting period, because for me the shooting period is some kind of magic when the real thing somehow invite you to the dance of the film. For example, when I work with the actors on the set, I forgot that they are actors, but instead I imagine that they are the characters, and I really want the actors by themselves to believe that they are the characters now, and that they know much more of themselves than me. I'm just the observer and trying to catch the right moments for the story.
Well, I think that you had an extremely strong ensemble, and I think you created a very safe gymnasium, if you would call it that, for your actors to take bold choices. You know, there was a lot of brave work going on, and I knew that said a lot about just the way you put your set together. So. Yeah. Do you have anything else? Where exactly was it shot? You shot all of it in Bulgaria, in the mountains?
Yeah, it was absolutely shot in Bulgaria. We actually combined different forests in different parts of Bulgaria. Although it's not a big country, but it's different areas that were in typological way. I mean, connecting the locations to work appropriate and looking as a same space, which a great challenge for the production design team and me, because we started actually shooting in the middle of the movie. We started with the winter and then transferring to the summer as to the shooting plan. So with every single step, we're trying to analyze the places, the locations from Bulgaria, and to find the appropriate place for the next scene, trying to connect the whole puzzle working for.
I figured your shooting schedule was a little longer. You know, given that you followed the seasons, which worked very well. How did you find funding for your film?
I beg your pardon, sorry.
How did you find funding, secure?
Okay, great. I actually am thankful for that question, because it was very interesting story, because my father is a big supporter of mine in my artistic background.
Wow.
And in the very beginning of the movie, I decided to try to fund from business sponsors, from a sponsor for Bulgaria, from the cultural center that is responsible for the films that were making in Bulgaria. But at that stage, he told me a very wise advice, and that I'm a young one. This is my debut, and if I believe in this project truly, and I'm devotional enough, I should shot this project by myself, and that's the funding came from my from the money that I saved from my car, apartment, and wedding. So yeah.
Right. Well, you have a very wise father, and he recognizes talent. So do you have a favorite moment in your film, or is there anything you want to share with us that was special to you in terms of your own process?
Yeah. For me, it is such a special those days with the animals. It was both a challenge, but was also a pleasure, because when you're working with an actor, this is still a connection between humans. And when you bring the animal, for example, the horse that was Shibil's soul, that presenting the Shibil soul, I found by myself that I have to be as pure, honest, and brave enough to connect to this animal, because even that there were horse mentors, horse trainers, animal trainers.
Yes.
I really wanted to explain the scene to the animal and somehow connect it to it, because I really believe that the animals transfer their emotions when you're honest enough and brave enough to tell from them what you want, and they believe to you. It's like with working with children. Yeah.
That's really a beautiful response. There was a time when I think I felt that Shibil's horse was actually listening. So, but I have to tell you, you had two very brief shots of a very interesting looking salamander, I think it was, black and yellow. And then, of course, you had the rooster in it that actually...
Right.
Which I thought gave a little symbolism, too. I wasn't sure if you were going that way with Christianity or...
Yeah, of course. The kind of combination of symbols that we wanted to present, and to using them in order to lead and move to the final climax of the internal worlds of the characters. And we presented the internal world of the characters through this symbolism and detail expressions.
Right, and you know, if only nature and mankind could live in harmony, I think we'd all be better off.
Absolutely.
But I must congratulate you not only on this film, but I think you have a bright future. Do you prefer writing over directing, and do you have another project?
Yeah. I actually prefer, if I will be truly honest, I prefer directing. But so I'm very open to working with a script writer that I'm not. And at the same time, I have my passionate projects that I write down and develop as the same as Shibil. And I think that if I have this future, and I'm really open to having it, I really want to combine both skills, writing and directing, and being in collaboration with other writers and directors, of course, as the life goes. Yeah. Right.
Well, you know, it's not easy to direct your own material, and I just didn't know, is this your directorial debut?
Yeah, okay. Right.
Oh, that's really remarkable. Yeah. What else can I ask here? I'm waiting for more questions. I don't see any, but oh, I do have can't see with the light. I have a question over here.
Hey.
Hello.
Okay,
I would like to know if you've gotten any role models in your life that helped inform the characters that you developed in the story.
Right, of course.
Personal role models. Okay.
Personal role models, right. Yeah. Actually, early back in my childhood, at the age of 9, I started as a young juggler in a circus.
Oh.
And yeah, and this was actually my truly passion through my teen years. So through the life goes, I met a very unique circus artist who was from the Moscow Circus School, and he through our rehearsals and our communication, my development as a juggler forward, I really connected to him and learned a lot from him for the discipline and the authenticity and the connection to the audience, that somehow the audience is the most important thing that you should send your message to. I mean, universally speaking. This was my first role model in my life, and I think that some of his strengths, because he is not from among us now, he's not alive anymore, and I really wanted to bring some of his strengths and dreams and passions in the character of Shibil somehow, the sensitivity. Second, my role model was in the scenography department, because I worked after the circus. I worked for 3 years as assistant scenographer, and then moved on and working for the National Theatre as a supervisor there, and learn a lot of the psychological of colors, and working with lighting, creating atmosphere, building props that somehow very unique and useful for the actors to inspire from them, and creating their characters through it. So this role model probably helped me to create some of the supporting characters, because it was this exact role model is kind of supporter to my grown, so I connected in that way. And the main and my basic role model in life is my father, because he overcome any possible issue and believe in the next day. I think that this is the most profound advice and lesson that we can follow for creating films. Yeah.
Well, it's very interesting that you mentioned juggling, because
Yeah.
not only is it a difficult discipline to achieve, but I have watched jugglers and I have seen the audience. You know, the audience is usually sort of on the edge of their seat, and as soon
Yeah.
as you miss a ball or something, you get the oohs and ahs. And I don't know if you're familiar with P.T. Barnum.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Brothers, but
Yeah.
I think it was P.T. Barnum that said, not only never underestimate the intelligence of your audience, but the attentiveness of your audience. And I think that goes back to your style of filmmaking, because there were so many subtle nuances. You really wrote and directed for an intelligent audience. And not only I think did I appreciate that, but going back to my original comment, your respect for women in this film was really beautiful. And I just think you have a really bright future.
Oh, but I don't know what to say, because for me this conversation it's a lot to myself and my personality as an artist. So I'm much more than grateful for those attention to my work and the words that you've spoken today. Thank you again for everything.
Oh, well, it's well deserved. And if your father was sitting next to you, I hope he's listening. I would tell him that it was well worth the investment. So
thank you.
We have about 5 minutes left. I'm going to wrap up shortly. Sometimes we have questions from audience, sometimes we don't. But it is not an easy feat to get a film not only written, but directed and made. And we just congratulate you for being part of the 29th Virtual Woods Hole Film Festival. And next year is our 30th, and we hope to meet you in person.
I'll be more than glad. I'll be more than glad, and I'm looking forward for the opportunity that your festival provides, and I'm more than happy to attend even in this year. It's such an honor for me personally. Yeah.
Well, we just are so proud of Shibil, and just want to thank Nikola, Bozadzhiev, writer-director, for being with us and sharing your time. I guess it's what, 5 or 6 hours later in Bulgaria?
Yeah, it's like 10:30 p.m. Yeah, so yeah.
Yes, it's around 3:45 here. Yeah. But again, thank you so much for bringing that story to life, and we look forward to seeing it again and again.
Me too. It was my pleasure. Thank you for the attention and the opportunity again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you. Wish you all the best. Bye.
Bye. Stay healthy.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.